So, do we, like, replace that section of the prologue with, like, a new version? We could do that. Here's the thing. What about the actor? I forget his name. For The Hobbit. For old Bilbo Baggins. The character is younger in this upcoming film, and the actor is getting older. He's, like, in his 60s or something. I don't know. Do we get a new actor? And if so, do we replace that image in the prologue? We could refilm that with a new actor and replace that in, and so it would link up better to your memories of what Bilbo looked like. Unless, of course, you'd like to keep it this way, so in order to link up better to what this new Bilbo looks like. Or I don't know. But Gandalf figures this is one of the lesser rings, and we figure so too. What about, people wondering, are the ring wraiths... Well, no, the ring wraiths just like, sense... Oh, sorry, they wouldn't sense from that far away. But why doesn't some crap happen to Bilbo? Something evil, some vision of the eye, something has happened in Lord of the Rings when he puts it on. And then we've explained this tacitly, to be too blunt. We explained this with the deal that as Sauron grows more powerful, the ring becomes more aware and it becomes more, so its effects on Bilbo are relatively weak compared to the effects that'll have on Frodo and the way Boromir gets tempted after like a couple weeks of traveling, whatever it is. Which does leave the question, why is Gollum so freaking effective? Well, it's because Gollum had the weak ring, but he had it for like a couple of centuries. So he's, okay. In terms of being very evil. And very corrupted and very screwed up. And then Bilbo has it for a while, and he sort of freaks out by fellowship, and then Frodo has it for like a year before he freaks out in like Return of the King. So you see things getting more and more powerful. Okay, so we figure this is one of the lesser rings, and that's where we leave it. I want to get this idea that the hobbits aren't going to have any more impact on anything. They're like, okay, so they're involved with that hobbit thing, but there's this big world besides them. There's the whole deal with the necromancer. I haven't even gotten into that yet. Okay. This is easy, but there's much more important stuff out there. There's Sauron and all this, and there's Gandalf. And you know what? I'd almost want people to think that, if anything, Gandalf will be the main character. And that the first movie exists to show, okay, some Middle-earth, and there's some hobbits and dwarves, and isn't that cool? But Gandalf is introduced. And we figure Gandalf is very important, because A, he's a wizard. He's very good that way. And B, when it comes to Journeys of Gandalf the Grey, he's like the main guy. And you think, okay, so Gandalf and Saruman and these other very important people, these will determine the fate of Middle-earth, whilst the hobbits are just sitting back in the Shire. That's the idea you would get, right? And then it becomes quite a surprise that hobbits get become very involved in all that, which makes sense because, as the plot goes, from within the fictional perspective, the rest of the world is surprised that hobbits end up influencing the fortunes of all. So we got the thing about being Maya spirits. That Gandalf is not like a normal guy who, has learned wizardry. He's like an angelic being in human flesh. And what I partly want to do with that is establish how the heck Gandalf manages to come back from the dead. Which, as far as I can tell, is never really well explained anywhere. Which goes to show how well detailed Lord of the Rings is. Everything's got, so much background and so much explanation. Every time you wonder about something, there's always an explanation that we assume that we just go along with the explanation for Gandalf coming back from the dead. But they never really get into that. Even though I've tried looking it up and stuff on, fan websites and, So, because he died to save his friends and crap, the Valar send him back again? Something like that? But, could you do that multiple times? What happens if Gandalf just, runs up to the gates of Mordor and, and kills a couple guys and gets himself killed, and then, gets himself resurrected, and then, and does it again, and then just, does it over and over and over. Could you? I don't know. It's sort of a miracle, just take it as it goes. Yeah, something like that. The Valar. I mean, it'd be kind of cool is if, when he's explaining his coming back from the dead in Two Towers, and they show that weird, cosmic thingy, I'd like to see the Valar myself. Not that you could see them very well, that would be just things of light and vaguely in human form, all shifting, but there's this whole Parthenon of them, I don't know. That's a very minor thing. But so Gandalf and Saruman and stuff are the Mayas. And then we could mention where the other wizards are at. We could mention Radagast. We could mention, if it weren't for Radagast, Gandalf would not be friends with the Eagles, I think. Because Radagast is a bird lover, right? And so he probably introduced them and crap like that. Okay. So, we have, I was saying about the bigger world of more important things. We have a part in The Hobbit where they're all about to go through Mirkwood, and Gandalf says, I have to leave you now. And, oh, before I forget this, you remember in Two Towers when Shadowfax first comes up, which, by the way, why is it called Shadowfax? It's a white horse and you have the word shadow in it, whatever. Shadowfax comes up and Gandalf says, Shadowfax is the lord of all horses, and he has been my friend through many dangers. What dangers? I've never seen this horse before. How about he shows up at some point, not necessarily the whole thing, but here and there. He's the lord of all horses. Maybe he kind of comes and goes as he pleases. Here and there in our bridge film, Journeys of Gandalf the Grey. That'd be kind of cool, in Gandalf the Grey. Just riding all Shadowfax through various dangers that come up here and there. Pretty cool. But we were going with... Maya spirits. Okay. So that's how Gandalf manages to come back from the dead. What I want you to do is to not get any sort of idea that Gandalf could come back from the dead. What you should instead is, if Gandalf is sort of an angelic being, you should get the opposite idea, that he would never die. That if anybody's going to survive this, it's Gandalf. And you've seen him, he helps out the dwarves so much in The Hobbit. He's such an important and wise and powerful guy in Journeys of Gandalf the Grey. And you get to Fellowship and you're like, oh, okay, well, we've got Gandalf on our side. That'll work out. In fact, there's a thing in the beginning of The Hobbit when they're all at Bilbo's house and Thorin says, we're going on a perilous quest and it's possible none of us shall survive, excepting, of course, the wizard. Something like that. It was like, clearly the wizard was... Like, I can imagine a little banterish thing on that. Just be like, it's possible that none of us shall ever survive. And then, like, someone, like, Keely or something... How do you pronounce the name's name? Anyway, one of the dwarves just happens to mention, oh, what about Gandalf? And then like, just sort of erupts like, oh, well, Gandalf won't die, yeah. And then someone's like, okay, you'll die first, and then you. They're all talking at once. And then you, and then Gandalf will slay the dragon with his bare hands, and then Thorin's like, anyway. Banter. Maybe that Gandalf would not die. That Gandalf is the most powerful of all of them, And then he does die, and you're like, holy crap! What else could happen? You start thinking anybody else could die now. Frodo might die. I don't know if you haven't read the books. and then it still makes sense that he comes back from the dead. Aha. Okay. So there's a smaller world. There's a bigger world. There's the Necromancer. There's the Mirkwood, and the dwarves are up here. And Gandalf goes down to the south, and he deals with the Necromancer, who turns out to be Sauron. So apparently, the deal with the Necromancer is there's a place called Dol Guldur. Dol Guldur, something like that. It's this hill where Sauron had built a minor fortress, and they didn't know who he was. They called him the Necromancer for a while. Eventually, they realized it was Sauron. They do something to Dol Guldur, like they attack it. All I know is Saruman was instrumental in getting rid of it. It was like they used the works of Saruman or something, but then they destroy it somehow, and Sauron gets away. Now, how does Sauron get away? He's an eyeball. His spirit shows the form of it. Does a spirit like just waft across the land like a wind? Oh, I'm fleeing to Mordor. Or does he have a physical body? Gollum did say somewhere in the books, yes, only 4 fingers on the black hand because the one had been cut off by a seal door. But I think it's going to be very confusing. Here's the nice idea. It is said that they didn't know if this Necromancer guy was Sauron, or perhaps if he was one of the Ring Wraiths. Like, hey, what if he is one of the Ring Wraiths? I'm working on Sauron's behalf. What if it's specifically, it's the Witch King of Angmar, the greatest Ring Wraith of all, right?